Yeah, I've been in the kitchen, cooking, look man, I've been trying to make it for a minute. Patient while I'm making it, the cake, I need the digits. Whole lot on my plate, but didn't fix it.
Say it ain't true, man.
Where'd you find this?
Let's get ready to rumble.
This is PHAT'S Barbershop Club.
Brought to you by PHAT'S Fresh Cuts. It's more than a barbershop.
And here's your host, Ladarius Fat Man.
All eyes on me.
Daddy's working.
What's up, Ruston? What's up, everybody? I am Fat, and this is PHAT'S Barbershop Club. Today is Monday, September 19th. I have Hunter Smith in the shop with me this morning. What's going on, Hunter?
Man, Fat, thanks for having me, buddy. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here, man. I said I'm doing football interviews. I said I got to get Hunter on. You know, we experienced something I never experienced in Ruston High Football, so I had to get you on, man.
Well, I'm excited to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
Yes,
to be here with you.
Yes, sir, man. Tell the people what class you repping, man.
Class of 1999, Ruston High School, last class of the century. Played on the 98 football team that was state runner-up to West Monroe in 1998. That's who I'm repping.
That's what's up, man. Hey, look, y'all, like, share, subscribe to PHAT'S Barbershop Club on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So, hey, let's start off with a question I like to ask, man. What's up with the world? What has you shaking your head right now, man? What's going on?
Shaking my head, good or bad?
Good or bad, either way.
Good or bad. My days usually start with three boys at home. My wife and I are blessed with three boys. Lander is a freshman at Ruston High School. George is a seventh grader at Ruston Junior High School, and Jack's a sixth grader at I. Lewis. So we've got a football game about every night, and as soon as football's over, we'll move into basketball and baseball, and then a lot of baseball in the spring. But our days are pretty wrapped around what's going on with them.
Yeah, that's good, man. You say all the sports, baseball, basketball. Which one you like to follow the most?
For me personally, I'm a football guy, no doubt. High school football to me is the ultimate sport. It's the ultimate time for young men and communities to come together, and from all walks of life, from all corners of communities and towns and different demographics and different socioeconomic statuses. And there's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Speaking of, man, well, not speaking of, let's go into my first question for the Ruston High segment. Who had the biggest influence on your life, teacher, principal, coach, coming out of Ruston High?
Easily that was Coach Tommy Reeder. He came into my life when I needed somebody to come into my life and make a positive impact. There were some things going on personally in my life at that time that I was really kind of struggling to handle the right way. I wasn't being very mature about it. I wasn't handling my business in the schoolhouse. I wasn't handling my business at the field house either. And when he showed up, he demanded a different level of accountability from me. And it changed my life as a young man, and it changed the man I am today.
Yeah, it's similar for me too, as far as Coach Reeder goes. He challenged me. You know, I can remember my famous story for me with Coach Reeder was we played Barb in the second round my sophomore year. I get the ball on 4th and 1, don't get it. So we're into spring practice, and he uses that as an example for the mat drills.
Sure.
He says, don't be 4th and 1 and get your opportunity, and let it pass.
It's been interesting because I've been fortunate enough to have a really good relationship with him for the last 25 years now since I played for him. And I saw him go through cancer. I saw him get older. I saw him change a little bit. We have some different conversations than I had with him as a player, but he still challenges me as a man to be a better father, to be a better husband. And I think the great ones, the ones that truly impact young lives, are the great coaches. I think the X's and O's are such a minority compared to what are you doing for these young men as you prepare them to go into the real world and go into life, and how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, how to be a better person in the community. What are you doing to give back? And I think that's something that that Coach Reeder instilled in me as a player and as a coach when I got to coach for him as well.
That's cool. And what is your most memorable moment at Ruston High?
No questions. It was the day after Thanksgiving, 1998. We beat Sulphur 28-14 in front of a packed house. It was the first time we played a quarterfinal ball game in a while. In Ruston, they were number 2 in the state. They were really, really good. Jerry Goldsmith and I talked about it last week. We bumped into each other. And, we talked about it last week. They had a kid named Marcus Trahan that played fullback. That was an unbelievable player. A kid named Corey Warren played Mike linebacker for him, went to Arkansas. Casey Daigle played wide receiver for him, ended up playing in the major leagues for a while. And they were up 14-7 on us at half. And Coach Reeder challenged us in the locker room. He said, hey, we can play with these guys. We can beat these guys. And we came out in the second half. Jerry got out twice on 248 lead or 348 lead. One time, 248 lead. The other time, I just remember telling him in the huddle, I was like, hey, man, just run to the corner. Just get there. And, Jerry was such an incredible player. More than just an incredible player, he's just an incredible teammate and friend.
Man, that's awesome, man. I remember being in the stands for that game. It was super cold.
It was a special, special night. I remember if you watch on our highlight tape, Coach Ware, our defensive coordinator, he says, we're going to go to New Orleans twice. And we were fortunate enough to beat Jesuit the next week in Tag Gormley Stadium in the semifinals 63. Beat him on a fake punt on the first drive, snapped it to Jack. Jack broke it from about 40. And that was it. We won the game 63.
You mentioned Jerry Carey, man. I mean, Jerry and Jack, the twins were awesome. Tell me a little about Jack. I know he started with sophomore year playing football.
Yeah, so Jack, I remember the first time I saw Jack Hunt touch a football. I was an 8th grader. He was a 7th grader. And we were playing at Ruston High School. And I don't remember who we were playing, but I remember seeing him put his foot in the ground the first time and really changed directions. And I went, wow, that's different. As great as Jack was as an athlete, people ask me this a lot about Jack. Jack was a lot like Coach Reeder because he would absolutely challenge you in a heartbeat to be a better player, to be a better teammate, to be a better leader. And he didn't have to do it with his lips. He did it by his actions. And so somebody asked me the other day about who I thought maybe one of the greatest teammates I ever played with. And looking back on it 25 years later, I think it was Jack because of the way he pushed us, not so much with his voice, but with his actions.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. I like watching Jack on that, was it Lucky or Ringo? Whichever.
Tunnel screen.
Tunnel screen.
Yeah, he got out on it against West Monroe.
And they called him out of bounds, man.
Well, he scored on the next play on the boot right special. But and then he got out on it against Sulphur as well. Yeah, he was really good on that.
Special, man. That was somebody special to watch.
He was a tremendous athlete.
Yeah. He made that number 2 stand out, man.
First one to ever wear it in Ruston High School history.
Yeah. Let's see. We talked about Coach Reeder, man. Memorable moments. Give me a
PHAT'S 5.
Talked about Jack. We talked about Jerry, man. Give me your top 5 teammates that you played with.
My senior year, I'm gonna stick with my senior year, but it would have to be Jerry and Carey are up there for sure. Doc Heffler was an incredible
interception in the sophomore game. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he was. I remember the first day he showed up. He moved here from Kingsville or Kingwood, Texas, somewhere. And he didn't know anybody. And by day 3, we were like, man, this kid can go. Yeah, he can play. And was just such a great teammate and a hard worker. Obviously, everybody knows what Jerry and Carey brought to the table, not just as athletes, but as leaders and team captains. So Jerry, Carey, Doc, and I were team captains. Talk about Jack earlier. I'll be honest with you, man, there were so many on that 98 team because one thing that was really interesting about that group is, I'll be honest with you, there's no doubt about it. That year, Jonathan Lyons was the best teammate I could ask for. And Jonathan and I had such a special relationship because Coach Reeder challenged us because Jonathan was a sophomore, I was a senior. He came in And Coach Reeder told me, he said, hey, y'all are splitting time 50-50. And this is only going to work if it works for both of y'all.
Your senior year.
Yeah, my senior year. Yeah. And I at first, I didn't really know how to take it, but Jonathan and I had a conversation early on. We both approached each other and said, hey, man, if we want this to work, we're going to have to make it work between the two of us. And I was his biggest fan, and he was my biggest fan. And, we had a system worked out, and, there were things that I did that Jonathan didn't do well. There was things that Jonathan did very well that I didn't do well, and I think those things complemented each other. And that was a really special time that he and I had together then. But, man, I could go on and on. Yeah. I mean, Matt Graham, Brian Weidman, these guys, I love every one of them. Bradley Dean losing his sister that year at the Devil game. Then he comes out and has like 9 or 10 tackles, an interception, and 3 pass breakups. That was a really special time. But when I think back about that group, the thing that stands out to me the most is it really didn't matter if you were a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, senior. We were all in it together. I think about guys like Corliss Scott, who I've been with since I was 12 years old playing a game of football. Yeah. He was just that nasty Mike linebacker, but, man, if I needed him, he was going to be there to pick me up, Bob Peace, it just goes on. Josh Jordan, Mario Cook, Garrett Johnson, all these guys, like, if they called me today and said, hey, I need you, I'm like, hey, you tell me where to be and I'm on my way. Cornelius Lee, God love him. Yeah. If Bam calls me today and says, hey, I need you to come get me off the side of the road and ready, I'm going to get him. Yeah. Right? I might give him a hard time
definitely
on the way back, but I'm going to go get him.
Yeah, man, that's cool, man. It's been great, man. Before we get out of here, I'm not sure if you saw the interview I had with Doug Strickland about unity in the community. What suggestions do you have for the community moving forward in regards to community involvement and how to get involved with the election for school board office? Sure.
So PHAT'S referring to, I'm running for re-election right now, the District 7 for the school board. This is a job or a post, a service that I started 3.5 years ago, ran unopposed. I would encourage, just like I did whenever we had a new superintendent interview. People came out of the woodworks from all corners of the community, whether or not it was East End or if it was Pea Ridge or if it was Squire Creek or Washington Heights. They were coming from all over, right? And I said, hey, man, I didn't see you 2 months ago. We were going over, budgets and teacher pay and, school safety. And I would just encourage everybody to stay involved all the time. And staying involved doesn't mean like you're a keyboard warrior on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, like talking trash about people. Like actually be involved. Like find something that you can help with and go do that. Right. And I think that starts at home, though, Fat. I think there's such a lack of across the board from all walks of life, from all corners of this community, where we have got to encourage our young people to cross those lines and to spend those times together to, because there's plenty of kids that I took home every day. There's kids that my wife and my son take home every day that if we didn't do that, my kids would never see how people in other places live and what they have to go home to. And vice versa. Like it's not just a white to black deal or black to white. Like I think Kyle said it best one time to me. I said, Kyle, why did you come back to wrestling? Talking about college. Yeah. He said, man, I wanted my kids to grow up in a community like I grew up in that felt like a locker room. And I never really looked at it like a locker room. Yeah. Okay. But if you think about it, in this town, you and I are now kind of veterans, right? Like you got the really retired guys that are older than us. Yeah. And then like people our age are kind of the veterans. And the people that are like 10 years behind us, they're kind of right in their prime. Right. And then the young guys kind of coming out of college, they're kind of the rookies. Right. Well, I think it's even bigger than that. Right. Like I look at it from a Ruston football standpoint. I tell people all the time, you grow up in this town and all you talk about is, man, when I get my chance, when I get my chance, this is what I'm going to do. Right. And are we all taking the right steps and the good steps to do what it takes to be successful when we get to that point? I don't know that. Yeah. Right. And then once we get out, sometimes we just kind of float off to the side and we have things to say that maybe aren't so positive, and then we have those people that stay involved and really try to help and do things, right? And so the problem with it all is that if we're not preparing our young people from before they get there to have the tools to be a great teammate, to have a great attitude, to play with great effort, because in my mind, those are the three most important things. Being a great teammate, playing with great attitude, and playing with great effort, the rest of it's going to take care of itself. And if we're not preparing our young people beforehand, if we're not talking about we over me, us over you early, then they're beat when they get there, right? Then the flip side of that is once we get out, if we're not a positive influence on these young people that are in the mix right now, when they look to the older guys that have been there, that if they're not getting positive reinforcement from those guys and love and support, then when they get out, they're like, well, I'm going to act like those guys. Or they're going to act like those people that did give them love and support. Yeah, it's a cyclical cycle. And, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I remember the first time I watched Ruston High lose. It was 1989. Brother Martin triple overtime, 59-56. Brother Martin went on to win the state championship. And I remember watching the pain on Brad Laird and Mo Malcolm, Derek Payne, and Rodney Young's faces. I remember that. Like, it got in my soul. And so right then and there, I said, when I get my chance, I want to do something special, be a part of something special. And then I told myself while I was playing, I was like, hey, man, when I get out, I want to have an impact back on these kids like people had an impact on me. You know, and so I just think there's so many ways to do positive things and to support and not be keyboard heroes. You know what I mean? Like, let's really get involved. Let's ask these kids what we can do to help them. Let's ask the coaches what we can do to help them. Because take it from me, I coached there for 6 years. I'm in education. I'm on the school board. I've seen it. If you've never been in that schoolhouse as a teacher and coach, you don't know what that's like.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? They're doing it for pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. So, anyway, I kind of want to rant. I apologize.
No, man, it's okay.
But I'm pretty passionate about that.
Yeah. What as far as the voting and school board situation, where can they find more information?
So, my Facebook page, Hunter Smith, re-election for District 7. So, school board re-elections or school board elections are done by districts. And so there's 12 districts in Lincoln Parish, and the school board and the police jury are in the same districts. Whereas like my district kind of centers around Hillcrest. Kind of I-20 is the south boundary, Farmville Highway is the east boundary, the railroad tracks the west boundary, and Fraser Road's the north boundary. So that circle right there, my Facebook page has got a lot of information about the upcoming election. Early voting is going to start on October 25th. It'll run through November 1st. And then the actual election is the same day as midterm elections on November 8th.
Okay, man. Hey, give people a quote for today, man.
Quote for the day. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Good one. That's a good one. How you do anything is how you do everything. Ah, man. I like that. It made me just think about it for a second. But hey, I thank you, Hunter, for coming through, man. We are, I said, around about 15 minutes.
Hey, man, I'll stay here all day.
I thank you for coming, man. It was good to get some of those stories, man. You talked about Jonathan Lyons. I was fortunate enough to play with him my sophomore year. He was one of my favorite.
He's great quarterback, great player, great leader, great teammate. I've seen him the last couple of years, and we've got to catch up. And I've got to see him as a father, and I had no doubt in my mind that when I saw him as a father that he was going to excel at that too.
That's good, man. Thank you once again. Tune in this Friday. I will not be at the game this Friday, but I'm going to do a live show before the still. Who knows who I'm going to have on? Somebody from maybe the 98 team. Or before, who knows? So just tune in, 6 o'clock p.m., Fast Barbershop Club. Make sure you follow, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Anything before we got here?
Man, I appreciate you letting me be here. It was it was an honor, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all you do for the community and the kids in this community.
Sure, thank you.
You are listening to PHAT'S Barbershop Club, brought to you by PHAT'S Fresh Cuts.